In part one, we learned how the virtual self operates, how it interferes with our best interest and creates illusions and delusions about who we are. We learned how we're trained to use force, programming, and incentives to motivate ourselves, which just overrides and suppresses the voice from our natural self. Let me tell you a story about how programming can keep us from our natural self. Patricia, my wife, and I know a person who is obviously depressed. We know this because of the way she talks and carries herself. She has this heavy energy and it's always with her. Many have seen this depression and made comment. One day in a social setting, she announced to the group that she was a happy person. Patricia and I looked at each other and did a double take because we were shocked at her comment. How could someone who was so obviously depressed believe they were a happy person? How could there be such a gap between what is obviously true and what is an illusion? This woman has programmed and forced herself into an illusion. She probably heard this common idea that you can choose to be happy. This is programming. It's not really true. Of course, she figured she just wanted to be happy, so she programmed herself, she considered herself a happy person. Now, to be fair, this woman is doing this at the level of unconsciousness. She's not thinking this through consciously. It's all in her unconscious mind. But that's what the virtual self does. It has us act without being conscious of our true motives. Like most of us, she didn't realize that by choosing or programming herself, she was suppressing the natural self telling her that something was wrong. Instead of addressing the depression, she just acts like it doesn't exist. All the problems she will have in the future with her health, relationships, and work that are directly related to this depression can never be resolved because the root cause, the depression, is covered up. It is a great example of how the virtual self deludes us and covers up the truth about who we are authentically. So understand that the virtual part of ourselves allows us to act in the world without being connected to how we really feel about things. Another great example of how we can act without really knowing our feelings is in the typical chick flick storyline. For example, a woman is engaged to a man that everyone likes, her family, her friends, and on paper, he looks really good. He's successful, he's handsome, and the classic definition of a good catch. Then the audience begins to see that he is selfish and controlling. He really doesn't see her the way she really is and has expectations of her behavior that denies her authenticity. Then another man comes on the scene who is perfect for her and allows her to be herself. But of course, she can't see it. In true chick flick fashion, at the last minute, she breaks up with the fiance and goes off with the man who is perfect for her. So, what's wrong with this happy ending? This is the part that really bugs me about these types of movies. The implication is that you can just wake up one day and just follow your heart. It doesn't happen that way. Even if you had a moment of clarity, you wouldn't trust it and you would second guess yourself. In the next section, we'll talk about how to follow your heart. We'll talk about some ways to know that you're following your heart, and we'll talk about the great value there is to listening to your natural self. Please join me.